Today we're going to check out a couple of different easy ways of making lo-fi hip-hop using microtonal harmony. Now our Western system of music is based on 12-tone equal temperament, which means that we have 12 equally spaced notes in the octave. All chord progressions, all melodies, everything really is based on these 12 notes. Now there are many other systems that we could use, and many other cultures have used them for thousands of years, but Western music is dominant, and we are so encultured to that sound that anything outside of 12-tone equal temperament has the general tendency to sound out of tune.
We have an out of tune player here.
Now, fortunately for us, lo-fi hip-hop music is built on the aesthetic of degraded cassette tapes and tape machines, which also have the tendency to make the music sound kind of out of tune. It's part of the sound of the style. My thought is that we could take the out of tune feeling that we have from listening to microtonal music and just slot it into the aesthetic of lo-fi hip-hop. So let's try it. Now, the first microtonal system that we're going to use exploits the age-old question: what is the note that's in between C and C sharp? Well, the answer, of course, is C half sharp. Now, how do we get C half sharp? Well, the way that we get it is by adding another keyboard to our setup. We're gonna tune this keyboard a quarter tone sharp from the bottom keyboard, and that's actually really easy to do in a digital audio workstation. We're just gonna load up a new patch and then retune it up 50 cents, which is the equivalent of a quarter tone. Now we can play in the cracks between notes. We've doubled the total number of notes that we can play, and we can play a full 24 note chromatic scale. So I've loaded up a wonky beat. Let's make some music with this. So that's not super in the aesthetic that we're going for. What should we do? Now, personally, I've had the most luck creating music with this quartertone system by switching chords between the two keyboards. That way, each individual chord will still sound super nice to us, but then there's this like weird microtonal distance between the chords. Check it out. I love the sound of that. It sounds so spooky and different than anything that you could normally get in 12-tone equal temperament. There's a smoothness that occurs between the chords that I really love. It's almost as smooth as the shave that you'll get from today's sponsor, Harrys.com. Now, fans of my channel know that I used to not shave as much before getting in front of the camera. That has since changed because I think the smooth look is much better suited for me. That came with its own annoyance though, because refills for razors are incredibly expensive. Sometimes they cost between $30 and $40 for an 8-pack. Now enter the subscription service, Harrys.com. 6 years ago, Harrys founders Jeff and Andy bought a factory in Germany so they could sell razors directly to millions of men at a fair price. Harrys was kind enough to send me a starter kit. The starter kit included a weighted handle with a textured rubber grip, a 5-blade razor cartridge, as well as a very nice foaming shave gel. I am a fan of the fact that Harrys donates 1% of all of its proceeds towards men's mental health organizations. So if you'd like, Harrys right now is doing a deal on its trial set. You can redeem your trial set for just $3 by clicking the link in the description, and you too can be as smooth as these quarter-tone chord progressions. Anyway, the way that I played bass guitar to that groove is by retuning my
E and D strings
up a quarter tone. You can do that with a tuner by setting the reference to 453 hertz and then tuning normally. There we go.
We have an out of tune player here.
At least in the situation where you can play some cool like Arabic sounding lines by using that second scale degree that's been lowered by a quarter tone like this. I think that sort of thing is pretty neat, but at the same time, that's not the aesthetic that we're trying to capture right now. What this should tell you is that the same kinds of tuning systems can be used for wildly different kinds of contexts. Not all microtonal music sounds the same, nor should it. Anyway, What other kinds of systems could we use? Well, there's so many of them out there, but I'm gonna hone in on just one for right now because I think it's especially good for this sort of chill vibe. I'm talking, of course, about dividing the octave into 10 evenly spaced notes. 10-tone equal temperament. This is a little trickier to get in digital audio workstations, although there are a couple of different ways. I'm gonna be using a plugin right now called Piano Tech to help me. First, I'll load it up onto a track. I'll go to Temperament, I'll go to Make Equal Temperament and type 10 scale degrees. And now my piano is going to be tuned to 10-tone equal temperament. Now, why are we using 10-tone equal temperament? Well, there's a really interesting subset of it called the equipentatonic scale. This is a 5-note scale where each of the scale degrees is exactly the same distance from one another. It sounds like this. You can contrast that to a minor pentatonic scale, which sounds like this. It sounds similar, but kind of different and novel and new. In the equipentatonic scale, the distance between each of the notes is 240 cents, or roughly a whole step plus a quarter tone. These kinds of intervals are used in the roughly equipentatonic tuning of certain African idiophones, like the Ghanaian gyil, which is kind of like a super buzzy xylophone. It's a fascinating, super malleable, super stable, super melodic sound that we just never can use because it doesn't fit within the 12-tone equal tempered system. But we're gonna use it to create some more chill beats. So, one of the things that you might notice is that the equipentatonic scale maps to the whole tone scale of the regular 12-tone keyboard. And similar to how our 12-tone system has 2 whole tone scales, there are 2 equipentatonic scales in the 10-tone equal tempered system. You can contrast the two if you want to get a little bit more harmonic movement in the sound, going back and forth between the 2 equipentatonic scales. So let's try adding a bass line underneath that. Well, unfortunately, it's not that easy to tune our bass to 10-tone equal temperament. So instead, we're gonna use another plugin. I'm gonna use Zebra, which allows micro tuning. I'm gonna first find a bass tone that I like. Something chill. Yeah, that might work. Then I'm gonna go to micro tuning and then select a tuning file. There's actually a selection of tuning files that I've linked in the description in case anybody wants to experiment with some of this micro tuning stuff. So now I'm gonna play a bass line. I'm actually gonna swap out the keyboards just because I find that this keyboard's a little bit better for bass line, slidey type stuff. I'm just gonna mess around. I don't really know the ins and outs of this system, and I think that's the fun and exciting thing. I'm approaching it completely as a newbie, and that's kind of fun. There is a certain magic to that. That's kind of the exciting thing for me with all of this stuff. It's always discovery. There is always a new thing to learn that I had never heard before. So anyway, I'm gonna mess around and come up with a bass line. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. For me, when I'm playing this on the bass patch, it sounds almost more major pentatonic-y, the equipentatonic scale, versus on the Rhodes where it was feeling more minor pentatonic-y. It's like a pentatonic scale that's exactly halfway in between major and minor. It's super cool. Anyway, I'm gonna mess around a little bit more. Okay, let's add like one more layer on top of this and call it a day. Let's do, I don't know. Micro tuning. I don't know, just having some fun here. I hope this video has given you a couple ideas on how you might approach making modern beats using microtonal music. I'm not an expert at this. If you really want to get into this stuff, I suggest checking out the music of Sevish. He's been doing this stuff for a much longer time than I have. I want to say thank you again to Harry's for sponsoring this video. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.